So where exactly does Dark Link fit into all of this? In the psychological and archetypal sense, Dark Link represents the shadow, of course. He's the antithesis of the hero, or he's not quite he could be the antagonist, but not always. The shadow is an aspect of the hero, which is defined, or the hero is denying something about himself, which is his shadow. And the shadow comes back again and again to confront the hero until the hero can integrate, can see that part of himself, which is the shadow, that's actually part of him. And until he can see that, until the hero can integrate that, the shadow will keep coming back again and again. The hero rejects that a certain undesirable trait resides within himself, and so he or she projects this unwanted aspect of themselves out into the world. Invariably, the recipient of this projection is someone who strongly reminds the hero of this aspect which they don't like about themselves but resides within them. So it's all about integrating that which we don't want to acknowledge in ourselves. And this is the role of the shadow. He is actually a helper to the hero. This is typically why someone you may find in your own life who's incredibly annoying is in some way they may be unconsciously reminding you of something you don't like about yourself. Ultimately, Link must vanquish his shadow to progress in the game. Killing of the shadow is really a symbolic act of acceptance and integration. He's integrating the unwanted attribute possessed by the shadow. The hero's integrating that unwanted attribute and accepting it in himself, at least for a time. After all, our shadow side never really dies, though. It comes back in different ways. There's different things that come up, and so that's when the shadow comes in. For the rest of this video, we're going to look at both the immature and mature masculine archetypes found in Link. And we're going to use the Triforce to model this. These specific archetypes are somewhat different than the traditional 7 archetypes associated with the story of the hero's journey. The primary difference is that the supporting characters on the hero's journey are more or less fully formed, although they may be imbalanced and don't change that much. Whereas the immature masculine archetypes within Link are to be contended with and eventually graduate to a mature masculine form. We will use the Triforce as a map of Link's archetypal development from boy to a man. The fact that the main playable character starts off as a child and later grows up, such as in the Ocarina of Time, should be a strong indicator that Mr. Miyamoto was trying to tell us something very important about the hero. The quest for attainment of the physical object known as the Triforce is, of course, symbolic for the Triforce of human developmental psychology or personal growth. The savior of Hyrule may only be as such if he can obtain courage, wisdom, and power and achieve balance between these 3 elements, integrating them within a psychological Triforce harmonized within the self. This is also known as the threefold flame within the heart mind. What most may have not realized about the hero archetype is that it is actually an immature archetype to begin with. Hence, the growth of Link in several of the Legend of Zelda games, from a boy to a young man. I believe this is done intentionally to signify Link's gradual ascension from courage to power, and then symbolically descending back down the Triforce humbly into wisdom under the guidance of Princess Zelda. The hero archetype is the necessary starting point in life. As the great stories of humanity can attest, we all begin our life's journey young, naive, and inexperienced. After all, it is the fairy Naivety who assists Link throughout. The Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, the namesake of this fairy, doesn't seem to be any coincidence, at least in my mind. It is these unpolished and naive attributes which make the hero possible. Only later the hero may integrate within himself the fully formed, mature archetypes, and there are 4: the warrior, the king, the magician, and the lover. And I'm going to talk a lot about those and map those out for you so you can see exactly what I'm getting at. The immature archetype of the hero goes hand in hand with the Triforce element of courage. Courage has a lower and higher aspect, as I talked about a little bit earlier, just as every element of the Triforce does. Link moves quickly from the lower aspect of courage into the higher because it is his natural element, or it's his strong suit. It's a far steeper climb for him, however, to the element of power. The point to understand with the immature hero archetype is that it must include an element of foolishness or a delusional sense of self, for that is its saving grace, ironically enough. Because to overestimate one's abilities means they are just foolish enough to actually go through with an otherwise insurmountable quest. The hero, having no such delusion or wild streak at all, would mean the hero ceases to be the hero and never starts the quest in the first place. The hero archetype gets us to the dance. From that point, we succeed or fail based on how much power and wisdom has been gained along the path for personal integration. Similar to Dark Link or the Shadow, the hero aspect as an immature archetype never really dies when one realizes the higher levels of development. The hero should not be ignored when it occasionally appears in a mature character who may have previously transcended this state, since it serves a very important function. The function of the immature archetype of the hero is to be impulsive, diving headfirst into situations which the wise would most certainly avoid. After all, Link starts off with a healthy amount of courage, but is low on wisdom and power. The hero is next-door neighbors with the archetypal character of the fool. The hero element should always be part of the protagonist and part of you as a person. The hero side of everyone is a little bit wild, impulsive, and fun. After all, the fool who persists in his folly shall become wise. This happens for the hero as well, presuming he or she eventually succeeds in their quest. So if the hero as a character archetype has some growing to do, what kind of character archetypes would Link develop into if he were to fully develop and become self-actualized? You notice they haven't made a game, at least yet, a Legend of Zelda game about Link becoming maybe a king or a wise ruler or something like that. He's always perpetually the hero. So you have to wonder, what would Link be like if he were a type of king figure? At this point, we will examine the psychology of Link using the Triforce as a powerful Rosetta Stone in which to unlock the underlying structure of the male psyche. So we're going to see what it would look like, not like what Link would look like physically, but what his psychology. We're going to map the psychology of a young male. We're going to map that psychology from the immature archetypes to the mature archetypes, and what the path is, because this is very interesting. How do you get there? How do you get from being the hero to the king or the magician or the lover? How do you get there in the first place?